I'm going to leave an Amazon affiliate link to this cold brew concentrate in the description box because it's delicious and I just really want you all to try it.
Alright, welcome to another episode of Zelf on the Shelf, the segment we call Reading Mormon Apologetics So You Don't Have To. Woo! We've got a lot of requests to respond to the Mormon Hub article, 21 Reasons It Doesn't Matter If the Church is True.
I feel like we've just been handed a gift based on this title, but we'll see. Should we just jump straight in? Do we have any housekeeping we need to bring up? Oh, housekeeping. If you like what we're doing and you want to support us because we're, not poor college students.
Just poor people.
Poor postgrads, I guess. We really like making online content, but it's not profitable. And we want to be able to spend a lot of time doing it. So if you like the stuff we make, then feel free to donate using the link that we'll leave below. And if you don't and you just want to keep watching our video, that's fine too. Here we go.
Alright, it starts off. A lot of people aren't looking for a true church, they're looking for a good church.
I'm looking for no church.
Yeah. Also, I think just like that right off the bat has people like Spencer W. Kimball rolling in their grave with Sarah McConkie.
I thought that was literally the whole pitch of this church. When I was taking the missionary lessons, that was the entire pitch, was that this is not just a good church. But it does give us a hint of where Mormonism is heading.
I imagine missionaries knocking on the door. Hi, are you looking for a good church, not necessarily a true
good
church?
One with like some controversy that will be in the news constantly.
Also, should we move the cat's box?
Yep, the cat's box needs to go.
It's quite loud.
Come on, kittens.
Here's a fact, I'm not supposed to drink coffee. It's bad for my skin. I have vitiligo and it makes it turn white. So coffee is literally making me more white and delightsome.
Okay, do you want to finish that first paragraph?
Mm-hmm. They want to be part of an organization that is fundamentally sound and makes its members and the world around it better.
Fundamentally sound?
I'm not trying to say the church is perfect, but we so often get stuck focusing on its minor faults and its truth claims. You know, as we're talking about religion and theology, you'd think that would be somewhat important.
So stuck on its truth claims.
We often miss what an outstanding organization it simply is. Here are 21 reasons we are lucky to be members.
Maybe this isn't the gift I thought it was going to be.
Just the facepalm.
Okay. Number 1, takes care of their own.
So does ISIS.
Yeah, I feel like takes care of their own is what you say about like the KKK, they take care of their own.
We're good at tribalism.
The church does good by those who are members through fast offerings, bishop storehouses and job services, along with ward councils and home teachers to make sure no one slips through the cracks. The cracks of what? The church is wildly efficient at caring for its own members. There's a hyperlink and it goes to the Wikipedia page for LDS Humanitarian Services. I tried to right click and you don't have right click enabled.
You gotta control click.
That's insane, Tanner. Okay, great, cool, a Wikipedia page. We should edit that sometime. What is there to say about that? Like everyone takes care of their own. That's one of the most fundamental parts of being human.
And the thing about this is they don't take care of their own. Think about the LGBT community. It's like, what is the church doing for them? Oh, you came out with a website, but didn't mention all the people who are committing suicide? Like, how are you taking care of your own?
Or didn't you have someone on your mission who like died because they couldn't afford insulin, but they were paying tithing?
Yeah, a friend of mine.
A friend of yours, yeah. Okay, so there's not really much else to say about that. Number 2 is does good in the community. The church and its wards regularly serve at the community level. I'm going to be 100% honest, and I know I didn't grow up in the church. I know I was in England, so it's kind of a different environment. But I feel like in my 6 years in the church, the amount of community service I did was absolutely minimal. Absolutely minimal. It says, whether it's participating in local service projects, working at local food banks, or organising with the new JustServe.org website, Latter-day Saints strive to make where they live a better place. As if people who aren't Latter-day Saints isn't that?
It's usually because they're too busy taking care of their own, cleaning their churches.
Yeah, that one did come first. Do you have anything else you want to say about that?
Every religious organization does that. It's called
something.
PR.
Yeah, and like Scientology.
Yeah.
They're probably doing more.
Mussolini made the trains run on time, It's like, just because someone does good, we don't want to knock when the church is actually doing good.
We're not minimizing when they do good. We will always praise them when they do good, but so much of the time it's tied to something else, or it is just a PR effort, and and it's about to get onto like more humanitarian aid stuff, but as we know, the church spent more on a mall than it did in 20 years of humanitarian work. So that argument just needs to stop coming up.
30 years of humanitarian work.
Was it 30?
Yeah.
It was 30.
All right, number 4 has long-term security. That's what happens when you stop caring about people and care about real estate investment. You get long-term security.
Love it.
If you're looking at an organization to do good,
period.
If you're looking at an organization to do good, you're likely looking for one that's going to be around for the long haul. Through its wise investments, the Church of Jesus Christ is among the most financially secure institutions on earth, which you would actually not know because they do not release their finances.
I cannot believe they wrote that. I cannot believe they're trying to... There is no awareness here. If you're a non-member and you're looking at this, the church is one of the most financially secure. So is Scientology. Again, this is insane. Let
me just give you a little history lesson into church finances. The reason that the church's finances are hidden is because Henry D. Moyle bankrupted the church through its building efforts. His idea was to build really expensive churches in low-income areas and other areas where membership wasn't really high, in the hopes that it would attract new people, new members who were like, oh, I want to worship in that really nice building. Guess what? It didn't work, even though they did like hundreds of thousands of baseball baptisms in these third world countries. So, yeah. That's the only, so he did that, and then they scrapped the finances, they kept them all hidden, and now it's just more real estate and things like that. Yeah, I want to do that song, the Henry D. Moyle song. Can we just have a breakdown?
How does it go?
Cause you're Henry D. Oh wait, can I sing the song, the actual one?
Okay. Are we putting this in the video?
Yeah. Everybody's like chapels, missions, baseball baptisms, Florida ranches, interquorum schisms, we don't care. The church deficit needs your prayer, and your Henry D. Moyle. Yeah,
I swear that's how we've got with that. Back to something more upsetting.
Oh.
5.
I almost skipped ahead.
Is highly efficient volunteerism. Presumably it's highly efficient volunteerism, which kind of seems like we've gone back to another point that was also invalid, but...
Read it, Sam.
When I donate to most organisations, what organisations are you donating to other than church? I like to know that little money goes to overhead. Because of the church's unpaid ministry... and bought and paid for infrastructure, bought by members tithing. The church is incredibly efficient with their resources and provide a lot. Do you guys need an editor? Why does everything we read need an editor? And provide a lot of volunteer bang for your buck. You can hardly do better. Can we just revisit that whole mall fact again? 30 years of humanitarian aid, a mall.
Let's talk about paid ministry. What this is saying is, we don't care that all these members are doing all this work for free. Bishops who spend so many hours of the week away from their family in a church office doing extra labor for free, while the higher-ups in the church are the ones getting...
Free flights, free college, free gifts for their spouses if you're a mission president.
It's, yeah, so what you're saying is, I love that normal lay people aren't compensated while the higher-ups are. Everyone can be efficient if they don't pay their workers.
Right, exactly. And mission president isn't even like that high up, and they're already getting huge benefits. Like imagine what the 12 and what they must get.
I'm not going to be surprised if we see on here like number 10, you get to be a janitor.
It just descends.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that Scientology thing where they get put in prison, or like kind of like a Scientology house where they're locked in if they do something bad, and they had to like clean the floors with their tongues or toothbrushes, but like none of them wanted to leave. Anyway.
This one, I saw this one when I pulled up the article, which is why you don't get my natural reaction it was just a burst of laughter because I could not believe that they said this one. Number 6, responds well to criticism.
I feel like I'm listening to Donald Trump tweet. It's just like, pick out the things that are the worst about the church and just
say the opposite.
Them. Say the opposite. People will believe it if you repeat it enough.
The church asks every single member to sustain its bad apostrophe placement, to sustain its leadership every 6 months. And anyone who disagrees is invited to speak to their leaders for a swift disciplinary hearing. The church also responds well to outside criticism.
By taking down our rap video, you bastards!
Fuck you, intellectual reserve.
We're protected under parody law on our Joseph Smith rap video, and they filed a copyright complaint because we use these little clips, which are protected under parody law.
But we can't fight them. We don't have lawyers.
But we can't fight them because they have a million lawyers, and we have nothing. So, seriously, screw you guys.
The church also responds well to outside criticism. While the church is frequently the subject of mockery, response is almost always of good humor.
There's a hyperlink on good humor. What's their example?
$10 says it's the link to the Book of Mormon musical ad.
Yeah.
$10.
Yeah.
There it is.
They're one example. It's funny because I've been saying that for years. When I was Mormon, I'd be like, yeah, they really knocked out. Like, I thought it was like so funny, and it's like, that's not representative of their general approach at all.
No, the church does not respond well to criticism.
No, I mean, how many people have been excommunicated for criticizing it?
Yeah.
We can list several.
Off the top of our head. Because,
Kate, John, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Everyone.
7. How are you so crazy? These people are insane. Mormon Hub, you are completely just in an alternate universe. In an alternate reality where up is down and down is up, black is white.
Shit, I just saw number 8 and I don't even know if I can even make it.
No, read to number 7.
7 is open to truth.
I just saw 8.
I know! If there is anything virtuous, lovely, or of good report or praiseworthy, we seek after these things. That sounds really culty. The church not only admits to, but publishes documents and essays that open doubt about its truth claims. I mean, that's almost definitely not the intent. Like, we want to open up doubts. We are open about opening.
It wasn't just the internet and the CES letter that forced our hand into revealing documents that we've been sitting on for 2 centuries and refusing to publish, and excommunicating historians who were dared publish them. We're doing it because we want people to doubt.
As Henry B. Eyring's father told him, in the church, you don't have to believe anything that isn't true.
Okay, so let's start with the first vision. Let's start with the Book of Mormon. Let's start with the 3 witnesses. Let's start with the Book of Abraham. Let's start with restoration of the priesthood. Let's start with polygamy and just go from there.
Okay, you're gonna have to read 8.
Oh my god, I cannot.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry.
8. Doesn't randomly change to keep up with the times. In their defense, the church doesn't randomly change to keep up with the times.
No, it's very much a response to criticism.
A response to criticism and mostly political and financial pressure. That's really the big issue, isn't it? Many organizations are constantly worried about trying to keep up with the times and are often chasing whatever the trend du jour may be.
Not us. We will still discriminate against LGBT people in 2016.
In 2016.
We are unchanging.
We'll keep fighting gay marriage in other countries. Once we lose the United States, we'll go to Mexico.
We'll go to Mexico! The church, on the other hand, changes all at once and together. What does that mean? Do you want to click that hyperlink, or? I feel like we should.
Let's just see what happens.
Changes all at once.
Oh, it's just a Mormon
an article
newsroom.
about continuing revelation. Okay.
It's so convenient that all their continuing revelations come after extreme
Amazingly
political pressure.
Convenient. This provides both benefits of not chasing after every trend. What trend? Like literally what trend?
Being
I mean, you're not thinking about clothing, are you?
Eliminating
Do you mean LGBT
racism?
rights? But also meeting the challenges of our time. Yeah, like that time you were decades behind on racism and equal rights and
fighting the ERA.
Fighting the ERA. That was the low point for you.
It's just kind of hard. This is really just like a total memory hole thing.
This is pointless. This is completely pointless.
This is just class. Like, I wish we could sit down with Orwell and be like, remember when you wrote 1984? Here is an organization that is trying to implement exactly what you said. Number 9.
Are there 22 of these?
Oh,
we're on fucking 9. Has moral courage. Do ya?
Except when you don't, which is always.
Yeah, except when you are.
Because your morals are based on these arbitrary ideas based on a fanciful, fantastical worldview and not in reality or logic?
It can be difficult to stand up for deeply unpopular positions simply because they are correct. according to who. But the church regularly does so on issues of chastity, alcohol, refugees, child and spousal abuse, and pornography. The church has led the moral charge while others debate and fight over what is right. Yeah, everyone's fighting over whether spouse abuse is right, aren't they? Everyone's like, no, child abuse is fine.
We should let spouses hit each other. Of course.
Yeah, that sort of stuff. Also, has led the moral charge.
Well, I mean, you could go back to Joseph Smith. Moral charge, something that we all think is good. Freedom of speech, for instance. But, you know, criticize the church and they'll go and break down your printing press. Moral charge. What other things did you want
I was thinking of the BYU football thing. Like, everyone else was calling them out for racism. Like, these non-members, these other schools.
Yeah.
And then the church somehow can still think of itself as a moral leader, even though it was racist for decades longer than everyone else. I mean, probably more than decades, really.
This is great. It's like, the things that the church tells us are moral, whether or not they are, the church really sticks to that.
Yeah.
All you're saying is, like, I refuse to see alternate opinions or to evaluate my own morality.
Okay, we gotta move on quick.
Yeah.
10, physically healthier. Oh, I cannot wait to... Oh. This
is yours.
Members of the church are physically healthier. Increased life expectancy, lower cancer rates, lower heart disease rates are simply some of the many health advantages the LDS teachings bring to its member. The LDS Church's own word of wisdom says to eat meat sparingly, a commandment, or, you know, a non-commandment that it does not follow, because Brigham probably liked steak, I don't know. And the church doesn't do that at all. Every church function you ever go to is cookies or something like... If you go to like a church barbecue, it's endless meat. All I'm trying to say here is that science has shown that a plant-based diet is the healthiest diet and and gives you the longest life expectancy and just the healthiest everything, essentially. And the church doesn't even follow its own scripture that says to eat meat sparingly.
Coffee's good for you.
Yeah, coffee's good for you, green tea's good for you, tea's good for you.
Marijuana's good for you.
Masturbation is good for you. That leads to longer life expectancy, you wankers. The church, I'm so much physically healthier since leaving the LDS Church. So much physically healthier. Most members of the LDS Church have no idea how to eat healthily. And they don't really have the time to think about it, or they don't have the incentive to think about it because they think it's all in God's hands and there's no need to like their ideas of health are so different. Like just avoiding alcohol, I mean, I think avoiding alcohol is good for your health, admittedly, but just avoiding alcohol is not the be-all and end-all of health. There are just endless, like processed food and meat and dairy are way more of a threat to most Americans than alcohol.
I always thought it was funny when I used to go to the Maverick to get my coffee. I know, that's trashy, isn't it? But it is what it is. I would go there and every day there was this LDS guy and he would always be getting this huge thing of soda every morning. And I'm like, I'm a bad person for getting coffee, which is like demonstrated to be healthy. Have value, and you're just chugging Coke every single day.
This Mormon once said to Connor, he was saying how he'd been eating vegan, I've been eating vegan, and she was like, an overweight woman holding this is like too ironic to even sound true, but I swear it is, holding a huge thing of Diet Coke or goodness knows what soda it was. And she was like, oh, but being vegan isn't healthy because the Bible says to eat meat or something like that. And like...
Awesome, the Bible also says it's okay to have slaves.
Tan, you should read this one.
12. The church is more educated. Latter-day Saints have a rich theology around education. 3 world-class universities, and many initiatives to increase education around the world. And unlike virtually every other demographic, Latter-day Saints who are more committed to the church are more educated. I will give you this. I think the church does better than some organizations at promoting
like
education.
the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah, who are like actively...
The bottom of the pile. Yeah, the church doesn't like... But that's the thing. What use is it to say like, yeah, get education? Let's be honest, the advice is basically for men, even if it's unsaid in a lot of ways. Because like women are I went to BYU Idaho and so did you. Like they encourage you in devotional to have kids while in college. You know, that's a nightmare. So women obviously aren't going to be able to continue their education that well if they've got a bunch of kids. And then what is even the use of all this education if you're going to reject fundamental scientific principles and like findings that like the rest of the world has long accepted? Like if you're still denying science and evidence, what is the point of education? If you have no critical thinking skills, what is the point?
Yeah, we went to BYU Idaho, and I do not feel that was a real university experience.
It
BYU
was
Provo
the
could be
easiest
worse.
shit in the world.
Well, and to their credit, that's where I started believing in evolution. That's where I stopped believing in the global flood, because I started believing in climate change, which was interesting.
You came from very different backgrounds.
Yeah, right.
The fact that you even have that good stuff to say about BYU Idaho is like...
Well, even then, it was not a real university experience, because the purpose of a university is to add to the body of knowledge that exists in the world. We have this, this perimeter of human understanding, and the point of a university is to expand that. And BYU Idaho, at least, does not do that. Yeah, in fact, they're shrinking it because their professors don't do research. So they're not, publishing, they're not doing anything. And the education that they're providing is, I'd have teachers who hadn't, done active research and study in that area of expertise for who knows how many years or decades. So it's all just really, I could name a few names. There are some really good teachers, ones that we love, but there were other ones who were just so out of touch with the contemporary issues.
And the teachings at BYU Idaho even were conflicting. I would go to, never didn't believe in evolution, but I would go to science class and it would be, evolution there's all this evidence, and it was very pro-evolution. And then I would go to scripture study with Brother Black, and he would give this whole PowerPoint presentation on different quotes from the prophets about why evolution is of the devil. 13. Self-reliant. While the church is fantastic at helping members who need it, the church's teachings also help more members be self-reliant. Mormons are less likely to be in lower income brackets and much more likely to be middle class. Much more likely to be middle class, yeah, because they're white Americans who live in Utah, mostly, and the ones you baptize in third world countries don't come back.
Yeah.
And also, sure, maybe encourage... how unself-reliant do they think people outside the church is? Because from my perspective, everyone in the church is relying on a community is not a bad thing, but you're going to your bishop to decide if you should make some huge life change that they have absolutely no idea about. And it's not growing up in a non-LDS environment. People aren't all. Who are they reliant on? Do they think everyone's just reliant on the government?
I think they're talking. I think there is something about Mormon do-it-yourselfedness.
Sure, they're all Republican. They don't believe in socialism. We get it.
Homemaking and food storage.
Etsy stores and MLMs and scams and frauds and tigers. Oh my.
14. Prepared for emergencies. Not only are members more self-reliant in the day-to-day. They are more prepared for when the worst comes. The institutional church does this with its financial stability, but individual members are also more likely to save for a rainy day, have emergency supplies, and food storage. Cool? Yeah?
Yeah. Admittedly, many people in the church die with thousands of dollars of unused food storage because they never needed it, but...
better safe than
you're
sorry.
Prepared for emergencies. That's true.
As a kid, I was always we never eat lentils, and you're telling me that in an emergency we're just gonna eat buckets and buckets of lentils?
Lentils are amazing for you.
Though in my mom's defense, she also had a year's supply of Oreos on hand, so we were covered in that way. 15.
Connected to their heritage. Latter-day Saints are much more connected to their ancestors. While this is to perform religiously significant rituals, it has impressive secondary effects. Knowing your family history helps children moderate the effects of stress and increases their self-confidence, among other benefits. What's that link? Is that a scientific study, or what's going on there?
This is the New York Times.
New York Times! The stories that bind us. This looks like it's quite a story piece. So apparently knowing your family history helps children be less stressed.
I could kind of see that, just knowing more about yourself, more self-awareness, where you come from and things, and having pride in your heritage. I could see that as a sense of stability.
What I would say though is Mormons obviously have really huge families, and I grew up, I'm an only child, my mum's an only child, I only have two first cousins. And growing up, I am closer with my distant family than say Tanner is to some of his immediate family members in a lot of ways.
There's too many.
Just because there's so many in Mormonism, and I'm not saying that big families are bad, but growing up, I was super tight with my great grandmas and great granddads, and then when they died, I was super tight with my grandparents. I feel I was a lot more connected to living family history. The living. You maybe were more connected to the dead.
Well, and isn't that interesting that, you know, they have all these elderly, retired couples and individuals who spend so much of their life in a temple doing work for dead people.
Or going on missions and like not really seeing their family.
Instead of spending time with the people who are here and now. I think that's a shame. 16, provides awesome stories.
True.
Stories are the bedrock of a culture, whether they're true or not. And Mormons have great stories. That's true. If you're looking for like an entertaining, mind-blowing fantasy sci-fi
the best
story,
Bible fan fiction you've ever read, the surrounding polygamous cult that formed around it.
Hands down. I came across this article yesterday about Joseph F. Smith, who as a missionary held a trial for a cat that was bothering him, and then he killed it.
That makes me so upset.
It's so sad, and it's just like a weird story. It's Mormon stories are the gift that keeps on giving. You could just plunge into that rabbit hole forever and never stop being entertained. They continue to tell biblical stories and preserve the tradition of early Christian pioneers. Then add the stories of the Book of Mormon and 19th century pioneers. Plus, each new generation of prophets brings a new batch of updated stories of righteous living.
Batch makes it sound like Thomas S. Monson has more stories than he seems to have, doesn't it?
Yeah, he has a cycle, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, they bring like 4 new stories. 17, come from many backgrounds. The LDS Church is growing. Is it? While many religious groups come from a similar religious background, just about every Mormon congregation will have many converts who come from many different religions, races, abilities, and countries. That is not true. Both the number of Mormons and the number of Mormon congregations are growing rapidly because aren't they making wards and stakes smaller to offset the people leaving? And just about every Latter-day Saint knows many converts in their local congregation.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, that's where they'd be, so.
Also, what does this say about ethnic wards? Because they'll do that, right? They'll have like a Polynesian ward, a Hispanic ward. I wonder what the benefits, the pros and cons are of that.
I can see the benefit of being among like sort of similar, but I mean, to try and claim that the LDS Church is cultured when it's like this ethnocentric American religion is just crazy.
Especially, yeah, I think we've talked about this in other videos, that the church isn't about celebrating culture, it's about cultural genocide and assimilating other cultures, and, you know, the fact that they're going into other countries and making them dress up in American business attire is just ridiculous. 18. Are happy, which is why Utah leads the nation in antidepressant use and prescription drug overdose.
And youth suicides. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints are happy. If we say it, it's true. Latter-day Saints are the happiest people in the entire country. And that is not just self-reporting. The Gallup poll measured happiness across 6 well-being indexes. Is it not just self-reporting? Click that. Because it measured 6 different things, how is that not still self-reporting? We all know that there's a huge pressure in Mormon culture to pretend to be the happiest.
Yeah. That you have to have that's why so many Mormons are depressed, is because they feel this enormous pressure and it's just unrealistic. Like, their life is supposed to be perfect, their marriage is supposed to be perfect, their kids are supposed to be perfect, and when they don't live up to it, they feel shortchanged and less than. So, good job, Mormon Hub, for perpetuating that. You're doing great. What are we looking at now?
I'm just trying to like figure out how they've got this well-being index composite.
Jewish people.
Also, Jewish people are beating you.
They're beating you.
The Jews. This is based on telephone interviews. This is self-reporting. Even Gallup admits that there's sampling errors and question wording and practical difficulties that may have introduced error or bias in the findings of public opinion polls. Okay, 19, promotes pro-social behaviors. When University of Pennsylvania psychologists wanted to find out why Mormons perform so well in well-being metrics, they discovered how connected we are to other people. That could be very true. While many people are becoming more and more individualistic, the researchers found 10 beliefs and practices of Latter-day Saints that make them more empathic and caring about those around them, unless they don't fit the mold and they're gay, in which case they have a much less empathy than the rest of the world right now.
And disregard recent comments by leaders that said, you know, if you have people who don't share or support your views or who go against them, that you should not associate with them.
Yeah, the BYU graduation.
A temple recommend question that says, do you affiliate or associate with any organizations or individuals who go against church teachings? That's pretty much literally everyone outside the church.
But especially us.
I love that while many people are becoming more individualistic, we're becoming more collective and...
More culty and more... So let's read number 20.
That's not the one we just read?
No, the one we just read was promotes pro-social behaviours.
Oh, this one seems like
creates social connection.
They should have just cut that out and then done 20 reasons instead of 21. They're trying too hard. 20, creates social connection. This pairs well with point 18 and 19.
What was 18?
18 was...
Oh, happy. Okay.
This pairs well with point 18. The church creates both a local and worldwide community. In local wards and branches, connections are made through socials and auxiliaries. Home and visiting teaching means even the most vulnerable are connected to the body of Christ. The church is so friendly that they have people who go to your house to check up on you. No, it's not spontaneous. It's an assignment. And if they do poorly, they get to hear about it every month by their disgruntled home elders quorum leader.
That's how I like to form my social connections.
Yeah. Oh, you were assigned to be my friend? Wow, I feel so valued.
21, provides family support. Mormons are well known for their emphasis on family, but the church puts its work where its theology is. Youth are taught from the time they are 3. New paragraph. Not only do they learn moral lessons, they develop their talents, writing, speaking, and planning skills. They are taught both during Sunday lessons and as they grow programs like Cub Scouts and youth activities. Why is being taught Sundays? Why is being indoctrinated from the age of 3 a bonus here? How is that providing family support? That's just providing support for the church in the future.
Yeah, that seems like a weird one to end on, Christopher Cunningham.
His bio says, Christopher D. Cunningham loves emphatically celebrating his son Albus's normal healthy development. That sounds rife with potential for conversion therapy.
I'm gonna grow
He
up with
also
a
loves
healthy
finding the middle ground on most controversies. Oh, and he also is a long-time supporter of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, which really didn't seem to come into this article much, given the fact that it was, you know, very linked to a lot of the points of discussion.
Not only do they learn moral lessons, they develop their talents, writing, speaking, and planning skills. I think that's kind of true, like practicing public speaking, people who learn to play the piano. I learned to play the piano on my own just to be able to help out in seminary. And so, like, I'm grateful that there was that initiative, but I just don't really see where this extends to anything besides, like, if you don't fit this mold.
Yeah. And I still feel like it still just reeks of unawareness of what life is like outside the church, because people still develop their talents, writing, speaking, and planning skills outside the church. I think, like, public speaking, sure, if you talk in church from the age of 4, you're more likely to be a bit better at public speaking, but
does everyone need to be a public speaker?
Yeah, it's really loose. Like, I don't think you're any better at writing because you're a Mormon.
Yeah.
And I don't...
Clearly.
Yeah.
So that's it. 21 reasons that it doesn't matter if the church is true.
It doesn't matter.
If it's a fun cult, then it's fine.
Yeah, I forgot that the name of this was 21 reasons it doesn't matter if the church is true.
But it still very much matters, because these are all, like, really biased viewpoints. Like, when you say you learn moral lessons, it's like, okay, well, what authority does the church have to mandate morality, you know? If it's not true, then its views on morality are potentially skewed.
Like, and also it says that, like, it's ahead of its times on morality, and it's like every study you ever look at of, like, LDS, LGBT youth, for example, like, they're depressed. And every study of people that try and repress their sexuality, it does not turn out well. And yet they still think that they have moral courage, even though they're, like, going against what the science is saying and what research is saying. It does matter if it's true, because people are killing themselves over it once again.
So I think this is just a classic example of moving the goalposts. People are realizing that the truth claims don't hold water, so they're trying to change the narrative. They're painting targets around darts, saying, like, well, we do great on all these other things, so maybe it doesn't matter as much, but it really, really still does, because, like Sam said, people are still killing themselves. People are still donating so much time and money and angst and all these issues because they believe it to be true. And if it's not, and they're being led under false premises, that's a lie. Bye.
Bye.